Pizza guys slash girls, does your shop have a no delivery list? What houses are on it and why? There was an older man who suffered from dementia that would order 4 fountain drinks and nothing else from my shop, then would tip about $300 every time. After hearing about it a couple of times, I told my manager and we all agreed to get in contact with his family, let them know we wouldn't take orders from him, and they would have to take some kind of measures to keep him from doing the same with other establishments. God only knows how much money that guy gave away. Hey, shout out to you and your shop, OP. This is absolutely the right and compassionate way to deal with this. Not just taking everything he has because he's giving it away. Clearly, he doesn't really know what he's doing. Story 2. I used to deliver to dorms when I was in college, back before credit cards could be used to pay for pizza. In the largest men's dorm, we had a war with some of the residents after they got mad when we wouldn't accept an expired coupon for a 14 pizza order. So they kept calling us with ghost orders and making life hell for us over the course of a few weeks. So we stopped delivering to anyone in that dorm. As we were the cheapest pizza in town, this didn't go over well with them. The RAs got every student in that dorm together and told them to knock it the freak off or get kicked out. So we tried to deliver again and the same crap happened. So we banned that dorm forever. It was cool by me. These idiots would place 5 to 20 pizza orders and then tip $2. Story 3. I was delivering for Godfathers in Memphis in 1988. We had no delivery houses as well as areas. We had one area smack dab in the middle of our normal delivery zone that was blocked out. It was a low-income apartment complex. We got a new manager and he was eager to up his numbers. So he quickly changed that area to being a legit delivery area. The first time he handed me an order for that complex, I explained it was a really crappy complex and we didn't go there for a reason. He accused me of being racist because I didn't want to deliver to the complex. Complex was all black and I was white. Manager was black as well, and said just to deliver it and quit complaining. Okay, man. So I drive it out there and walk upstairs to the apartment door. I knock, no answer. I look a bit closer and it is obviously a vacant apartment. So I head back to my car and I'm sorting my money bag and next order when I glance up in the rear view mirror. I see 3 bad-looking dudes crossing the parking lot heading right for my car. I notice one of them is carrying a rifle. Holy crap. I cranked up my crappy Volkswagen Rabbit, threw it in reverse, and hauled it out of the lot. I get back to the shop and the new manager accused me of making it all up and said he didn't think I had even attempted to deliver it. He says to go back out there. I say, no freaking way, dude. He insists, so I insist he comes with me. We drive back out there, he carries the pizza up the stairs, realizes it is a vacant apartment, quickly gets back in the car and says, sorry dude, you were right, it was a setup. We got back to the shop and he marked the whole area off limits again. Story 4. A lady on our delivery route was just getting out of the shower when we arrived and kept accidentally dropping her towel. There wasn't a single driver in our shop who hadn't seen every disgusting fold and lump on the front of that 300-pound acne-covered body. The manager finally warned her that if she did it again, she would be banned. She, of course, did it again. And I like to think the resultant loss of home-delivered pizza translated into a net benefit for her physical health, just as it had done for our mental health. Story 5. I used to deliver sandwiches for a shop. We had to blacklist this one lady who would call up last minute and demand 50 to 100 sandwiches for her meetings, and she wanted them delivered in 15 minutes. We explained things to her over and over again. That was not how this worked, but she still demanded her order. So when it showed up 45 minutes later than expected, she became a monster, causing a scene, not tipping, sending in complaints to the district manager, etc. This happened so many times. And finally, one day she called in an order for 200 sandwiches and wanted it in 15 minutes. I delivered it myself and she took the sandwiches from me for her meeting. I sat there and waited for her to sign the receipt, and waited and waited. Turns out she took the sandwiches into her meeting and booked the hell out of there, not signing the receipt. She then called her bank to cancel the charge on her card and called us in for fraud. She had the nerve to call up our district manager and said we owed this to her since all of her orders were late. She was blacklisted after that, and my district manager finally apologized for not believing me on this story. Drug reps are the worst. I want to know what part in this woman's head was like, yes, I can absolutely get 200 sandwiches in 15 minutes. There is no reason they shouldn't be able to do that. Like, I want to know how fast she makes a sandwich. Wait, that sounded vaguely sexist. I swear I didn't. Moving on. Story 6. I used to be a delivery driver for Pizza Hut. I used to work the Sunday afternoon shifts and would have the same man order supreme pizza every week. I was always the one to deliver his order because most of the time I was the only driver on duty at the time of day. Alan was a nice, quiet man who had a lovely front porch. One day I didn't take his delivery for some reason. Poor Marvin took the delivery instead on that day, and Alan decided to open the door stark naked for the first time. Alan wanted to show me, a small red-headed girl, the goods, not big black Marvin. Alan never got another delivery. Story 7. I delivered pizza in New Jersey. I went on the porch to see a snarling Rottweiler behind the door. No big deal. Happens a lot. I'm a stranger. Dog. Just being a dog. The lady pushes him back. We do the pizza transaction, and as I'm turning to go, the lady said, "Oh my god, he's out." The back door was open and the dog was charging around the house, about to come on the porch. I quickly opened the door to run inside, and the lady screamed, "No, the really bad one is inside." And I see a bigger Roddy just inside the hall, so I stick myself between the screen door and the real door, and I am trapped in between an angry dog sandwich. The outside dog bites my calf because I can only close the screen door so much. Not much damage, but I'm bleeding. The manager goes to talk with the lady. It's like an eighth of a mile from the store, or the lazy bastard wouldn't have bothered, and Roddies are penned up out back. As soon as the lady starts talking to him, another small mutt dog zips out the door and bites him on the hand. He made the call on no more pizza for them. Story 8. We had a guy and 2 girls order separately, then grab the pizzas and run. The girls had picked up the food and left while the guy was paying. After 30 seconds, the guy bolted. It was a $100 order. My manager, who is a frequent gym goer, leapt the counter and gave chase. The 2 girls had gotten into a car with the food, but when they saw my manager, they drove off, leaving the guy. My manager chased him 3 blocks and was gaining on the guy when the girls pulled up and the guy got into the car. Unfortunately, all 3 of them went to school with a kitchen hand at the store. So we had names, jobs, addresses, and Facebook accounts. We contacted them all on Facebook and got them to pay for the pizzas the next morning under threat of contacting police. We also put them on the no delivery list. Story 9. Worked at Papa John's. The only places on the no delivery list were bounced checks. We had one driver get his knee bashed sideways with a baseball bat and money stolen. I delivered to the same place the next night. They didn't care about getting robbed because the driver's only supposed to have $25 max on him at all times. So everything over that $25 the driver had to pay for. This driver, I think, had to pay around $125 after being assaulted. Edit. I wanted to clarify about carrying cash. We were told for this very reason that after every delivery, usually 2 to 3 houses, when you come back to the store, you put all the money in your drop box. Obviously, if you got $60 cash on a delivery, the store wouldn't make you pay for that, but they had a record of how much the order was and how they paid. Story 10. I am on the no delivery list of 2 restaurants because my roommate is a freaking idiot and can't math to save his life. He once sent a driver away after a heated conversation with a negative 25-cent tip. Unfortunately, I was in the shower at the time. It wasn't until afterwards that he was explaining the situation to me that I realized what a moron he was. The bill came to $20.25. He gave the guy a 20 and thought it was a good tip because we ordered 2 sandwiches that were basically $7 apiece and a $1 soda for a total of $15. So, in his mind, $5 tip. In actuality, the sandwiches were $7.99 and the soda was $1.99. So, $18 right there. Then there was a $2.25 delivery fee. So, $20.25. Unfortunately, the delivery guy spoke almost 0 English, so all he could say was, "not enough" to my roommate. And my roommate is a jerk who wouldn't read the damned receipt. He's no longer allowed to answer our door. Story 11. We had a few blacklisted numbers/addresses. Most were for people who wrote bad checks or would constantly complain, return orders, or make threats. One address that was on the absolute edge of our delivery area, a business all by itself on the edge of town, got blackballed because people from outside the delivery area would give that address and meet us there. A couple of bad neighborhoods, including one that was literally 6 dilapidated trailers in the middle of a field with a 2-track going back to it, nothing but druggies with pit bulls and Roddies with no leash, were blacklisted too. You know, OP, you guys must have had some pretty good food. If people wanted to drive and go to the edge of the delivery area and then pick it up because you couldn't deliver to their houses, people must have really wanted it. So hey, that's a good sign at least. It's either that or people were really desperate. Story 12. Okay, we had a really nasty apartment complex in one area of Sacramento. Totally a no. One night a new guy took an order and actually accepted one from there. I was about to call back and say no. I was assistant manager at the time, but running pizzas that day, when in come 2 cops to pick up their pizza. They listen in and offer to tag along. I was dumb and crazy then, so we made the pizza and I loaded it into my little truck and drove out there. As soon as we pull into the parking lot, the cops turn off all of their lights and coast into the spot next to mine. I walk up, start the spiel, and start listening to their story of, "this guy" or "that guy" ordered it. I started to walk away, and one of these shady dudes steps out of the bushes next to me where he'd been hiding. Instantly, every light on the cop car came on. Flashers, both spotlights pointing right at me, the cops getting out of the car fast. Dude steps way, way, way back. I walk back to my car, and a couple of cops got an extra free pizza that night. I also got out of there with a great story. Story 13. Worked at a Hungry Howie's Pizza in college. They were basically a cheap discount pizza chain. We had a few stores in a college town. Mine served the local college campus and the areas out west and south. These included the bad parts of town. We had a list of about 10 or so neighborhoods or streets we didn't deliver to because drivers had been robbed, one of which was a rather large government housing project. That never went over well when I had to explain it to people. They often sassed me out like it was my idea or called me a racist. We also refused to hire female drivers because of an incident before I was hired. A group of people made multiple fake calls throughout the night to different addresses until the female driver showed up. When they did, they kidnapped her and assaulted her for days. She lived. The cops spotted the car a couple of days later with 4 of her attackers in it. You know, exclusory hiring is not great in concept, but I can't say I don't understand it here. Like, God, that's fair enough. An absolutely horrific thing to happen while just doing your job. I'm not going to say any specifics, but I do hope those guys faced serious consequences. Story 14. I worked for a pizza place in high school, and one of my friends lost their life during a delivery. Apparently, the husband had been in trouble before for domestic violence or something. I heard stories about the wife answering the door with fresh blood on her face, black eyes, that sort of thing. A couple other guys actually called the cops after delivering their pizza. Anyway, my friend shows up to deliver the pizza, and I guess the husband thought he had called the police a few nights before, so the husband shot and murdered my friend. Story 15. In the late 90s, I was still living in Detroit and in between desk jobs, so I delivered pizza as a part-time gig. Detroit's neighborhoods have been rough for a few decades now, but the 90s seemed like they were on their own level. I won't say the specific neighborhood, but there were some really rough ones. This one house, though, this house was just in awful shape. I kind of figured this would be bad even as I was driving down the street to get there. Every other house literally was either burned out or very obviously abandoned. This one was just kind of crappy looking, but I tried to be optimistic. I walked up to the door, awning kind of drooping over my head, and knocked. Almost instantly the door cracked open, and all I saw was a dark hand with what looked like a Glock. "Leave the pizza and walk away." I complied, obviously, and told my manager that I would not be delivering to that neighborhood anymore. Still stuck around with that job for another 6 months or so, but that was probably the only thing on that level I've seen. Story 16. Prior to my freshman year of college, 2002, I was delivering pizzas for Pizza the Hut in a decent suburb outside of Cleveland. I was the typical stoner/partier, easygoing delivery guy, as a little background. One afternoon, my manager requested I go change several $100s for smaller bills for our register. As I'm leaving the bank after getting change and getting into my car, I sense someone approach from behind. Suspect that they're gonna ask me for a cig. Nope. Instead, it's a dude with pantyhose on his head and a knife, who demands the money I have in my pocket and my keys. I oblige, and he ultimately runs off and tosses my keys in the parking lot where I can see. When I run into the bank, no one at all saw the incident, and wouldn't you know it, when they pull up the footage, there is sun glare in the exact spot on the window where my car was parked. The cops interrogate me and search the car, but seem to conclude that, in fact, I was telling the truth. My manager even vouched for me, saying I was a good kid. Flash forward to about 10 years, and I'm telling the story at a party, and bam, it hits me. My manager, who often dated unsavory characters, set up the whole thing. Considering I was robbed in front of a bank in broad daylight on the busiest street in my town, who the hell would know to rob me? Especially since I hadn't put my car topper on at this point. Story 17. I worked at a Little Caesars when I was a teenager. On a really snowy night, one of our drivers got into a car accident and sadly lost his life on his way to deliver the pizza. The customer called in a little while after we learned about the accident and absolutely lost his crap that his pizza hadn't been delivered. When the manager explained the situation, he stated, "I don't give a crap. I want my pizza delivered for free." Needless to say, he got an earful from my manager and then was put onto a no-serve list. Story 18. Our delivery store has a woman who used to come in every so often or order delivery who didn't want black people to interact with her or her food at all. One of our drivers, a really nice old black dude, delivered to her and she simply slammed the door in his face. Another time, she walked out on a black cashier because she swapped places with the white driver who was originally taking her carryout order. Finally, the manager put his foot down and told her to not come back or order from them ever again. I feel like 99% of the time, sort of racist tendencies or whatever are sort of a little more under wraps, you know what I'm saying? They're a little more hidden below the surface. That 1% of the time, I gotta say, is kind of funny. Like, what do you mean you don't even want someone who's black to touch your food? What kind of loser behavior is that? You are a strange, strange woman. Story 19. I worked as a delivery driver for Papa John's in high school. It was a nice weekend job, lots of nice people in my area. Naturally, there were a couple of crapheads who we didn't like to serve and later would be added to the blacklist. One memorable house was this guy. Oh, this freaking guy. He would order massive amounts of pizza. I'm talking anywhere between 7 and 20, and would pay with cash. So naturally, we would call ahead of time to make sure it was a legit order and that we would get paid for the pizza. He would answer, tell us, "It's all good, I have the cash." It would always be the same order. X amount of thin crust pizzas with the double anchovies and olives, extra cheese. I would load up my car, drive over, and he would never be there. Lights off and everything. Needless to say, we were all mad. This happened 3 times before we decided to add him to the blacklist. Then we would get the same order to other houses. We would get sketched out and not delivered to these houses. Over time, and with many anchovy and olive orders made, we added like 6 or 7 houses to the blacklist. Story 20. Pizza guy here. We don't have such a list, but we do remember which houses are regular jerks, and which ones try to scam free pizza by complaining. We usually just send another pizza, but we make the regular baseless complainers send the first one back. We've never had anything truly bad happen to make us stop sending people altogether, but we have sent different drivers to some places. Like if a coworker's being hit on and it makes them uncomfortable, we'll send someone else. I'm sure if something bad enough happened, we would cease delivering to that address though. Also, I never understood being a jerk to the pizza guy. Like, you're not supposed to mess with people who make your food, so why would you mess with the people who make your food and know where you live? Story 21. I worked for a restaurant delivery service and we had 2 people that stuck out in my mind. Incredibly misogynistic, verbally abusive man would call an order being a sexist jerk the whole time, and then call back 10 minutes later livid because his food wasn't there yet. I hated that man, and it was glorious when my boss snatched the phone from me mid-tirade and told the guy off. And one of the, escort homes. All the other places of ill repute were super nice, tipped well, etc. This one in particular, though, they would straight up snatch the food out of your hands and slam the door in your face. They would try and scam you out of money with these making change tricks, complain about every order, verbally abused drivers and order takers, and other stuff I'm sure I've forgotten. This was a long time ago. You'd think that given the nature of their business, they would want to avoid the attention of the law, seeing as how they didn't even bother to conceal themselves under the name massage parlor, but openly flaunted that they were just a straight-up escort house. I'll never get that one. I imagine that's why they were spectacularly busted about 6 months after we quit delivering to them. Story 22. Let me tell you this. One time I worked for this lady that owned Nardone's Pizza in Atascadero, California. She was the worst person ever. No one ever worked there longer than a couple of months, and she just crapped on everyone. She didn't have a no delivery list, but what she did have that was even worse was her own personal whitelist delivery book that had every single good tipper in the world on it. Example, delivery boy gets back and goes, "Wow, that guy tipped me $20. Owner then writes down that order, name, number in her book. Next time that guy calls to order a pizza, she doesn't let anyone else deliver. She takes it. No one knew this trick, and she just kept taking orders from all the newbies. I worked there for about 4 months and caught on after the first month or so. After that, I spent the next few months claiming that the horrible tippers were amazing. I would watch her go to these repeat customers and come back with a disgusted look on her face. I would ask her what's wrong, but she would never want to talk about it. What strange, greedy behavior. Like, I don't know, I can kind of get behind having a list of people who tip well. That's cool. But taking all the orders yourself from it, that's just using it for evil. I don't know, why do people have to be so greedy, man? It'd be so easy just to give each employee or driver one of the good tips every week or whatever, just keep everyone happy. But no, you really need that extra, what, $40 a week maybe? Story 23. Well, my brother and I, 18 and 17, are the 2 delivery boys for a Chinese place near my house. One day, 2 months ago now, I was working and a delivery is called in from one of our regulars. Huge house, good tipper, young, cool guy. Needless to say, I was ready for a nice $8 tip. I show up at the guy's door, and a middle-aged man answers, I assume his dad. I look down to the bag to give him his total, and as I do, the fat bastard grabs my arm and tried to pull me into his house. I'm not a big kid to begin with, so I just drop the bag and pop him in the face. He loosened his grip a little, so I just wriggle my arm free and nope the hell out of there. The scariest part is the house is a huge freaking mansion like 1,000 feet off the street it's on. I think I would have been in for more than a few butt poundings if I didn't slip out of that one. A few court appearances later, he got charges for assault and harassment. Yay, I didn't get abducted. Story 24. A coworker and friend of mine got a delivery one night. Before he left, our manager pulled him into the office and gave him a pair of latex gloves. He was instructed to use them to put the money in an envelope. He was confused but didn't ask many questions. He says when he got to the house, there was actual caution tape around the yard and a sign that said something like, "Warning, infestation." He's somewhat of a germaphobe to begin with, so at this point he really doesn't want to go up to the door, but he has to deliver this pizza. The woman who answers the door is grotesque and is covered in red splotches and potentially bites of some kind. He quickly hands her the pizza, carefully takes her money with the gloves on, and stuffs it in the envelope. He threw a fit when he got back to the store, and the manager felt so bad she put the house on the blacklist. He said he scrubbed his hands till they were red afterwards. Thinks it was bedbugs or scabies or something. We'll never know. Story 25. I 100% get why people would make such a list, but to give you a tale from the flip side, I'm quite certain I was on such a list. The previous homeowner was a crotchety, abrasive woman who repeatedly tried to screw me while I was closing on the house. I literally had to walk away from the table twice to get her consent to what she had already agreed to. No, you don't get to stay here an extra 2 months in the house before I move in. We already set a date, etc., etc. Anyhow, first 3-ish years I couldn't get a single delivery person to come out. I would call in for a pizza or for like a furnace repair. I would get it scheduled. No one would come. No reasons given. I would call back and I'd get a, "Sorry sir, we'll send someone right out." But nothing would come of that either. Honestly, I got sharp with the managers a few times because from my perspective, I'd done nothing wrong. I just ordered a pizza and 2 hours and 3 phone calls later I was never given a reason. It just never showed up. This probably didn't help if they assumed I was already a bastard, but I wasn't. I just wanted the pizza and I didn't know why I was getting such terrible service. Anyhow, long story short, I get why you do it, but sometimes lists need some forgiveness or some time to age people off that list. Just food for thought. Story 26. I deliver pizza and yes, we do have a list. If a house is on that list, it's because someone at the house has upset a driver. Only one I can think of is one of our local drug dealers jerked me around and tried to jack his food without paying. So I just went back to HQ and told the boss, yeah, no, screw that guy. He was then put on the list. I ate his food and had fun messing around with him on the phone for the next few hours. I have great bosses. Story 27. Not delivery, but pizza. A couple years back after I graduated high school, I was managing a Little Caesars. It is hell, if you were wondering. This one lady would call with this really specific order. I think it was light sauce, double the cheese, and cooked a little longer. One night, I had a new girl working the register and she got the phone and took the lady's order. She didn't get a name. As we're carry-out only, we didn't get a lot of calls in. So about an hour goes by and the girl calls me to the front to talk to a customer. As soon as I came around the corner, this lady starts screaming at me. "Y'all always mess up my mother-freaking pizza. It's a freaking pizza. It ain't that hard." I tried to calm the lady down and explain to her someone new took her order and it was an honest mistake. I offered to comp it and make her a new pizza. She was still irate. Kept yelling she was going to get me, my crew, and my GM fired. I would have liked that. Screw Little Caesars. So I eventually called my GM because this bee would straight up not leave. He asked to speak to her. She talked to him and then all of a sudden, about after 30 seconds, she screams, "Oh, so you think this is funny, mother freaker?" My GM was laughing at her because she evidently wanted free pizza for a month for her troubles. I then had to call the freaking district manager, aka 2 steps below the owner of 47 stores, to talk to her. She cussed him out too, and still was in the lobby screaming at me. Sometime during all of this, her son, who looked around my age at the time, 19, came in the store and was standing with her. Now, my crew had this dude named Terry, huge-ass black dude, and you couldn't see him unless you were in the back because he was on oven duty that night. This woman's son decides it's time to escalate this to a physical confrontation because I'm laughing at her at this point too. He opens the door to the back, and we always joked if someone did that, they were going to get screwed up and, Whew, well, it turned out to not be a joke. Terry whipped this dude's butt to the y equals mx plus b degree. Dude got like 2 good hits on Terry, but Terry just dropped this guy in the matter of about 10 seconds. To conclude, the son got a ticket for trespassing in addition to his beating. The lady got banned from our store, and I got a story I will truly never forget of how people will flip out for pizza. And no, it was not Terry Crews. Story 28. There were a couple of low-income transient places that were banned. Too many delivery guys got mugged there. Small local pizza place in a mostly resort town. Someone new took an order from one of those places and I delivered, not knowing this was a bad area as I had never been there. Guy handed me a large bill and when I reached to my back pocket, he said, "And just go ahead and give me all your money." So I pulled a pistol instead. Had a lower back holster because my idea was to let someone think I was getting my wallet instead. I stepped back and before I could even get the gun up, he yelled, "Oh crap," and slammed the door. I ran like a bat out of hell. Back at the pizza joint, owner chews the new person out for not checking the list. Still remember this as the biggest tip I ever got. Story 29. I used to deliver pizza in the Santa Ynez Valley, California. For those of you who don't know, that's where Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch is located. This was years before he passed away. One day we got an order for 20 pizzas from an address out on Figueroa Mountain Road. That's pretty far out in the boonies, but it was a good order, so we were clearly going to drive to them. The note we got with the delivery was to check in at the guardhouse, and they would let us through the front gate. Curious. There's only one guardhouse I knew of on that road. It was my turn for delivery, and I was pretty excited. This should be a pretty good tip after all. So I took the pizzas to Michael Jackson's ranch. The guards let me through the first gate. I drove about a mile to the second gate, which happened to be the iconic Neverland Ranch Golden Gates with the naked cherubs on it. The gate opened automatically. I drove for another quarter mile or so and got to a set of huge parking lots. I took the pizzas to a woman with a headset, and she told me to take them to the main house, where Michael lived. I drove up to the house, rang the doorbell, and Michael Jackson answered the door, naked. Okay, that last part didn't happen. Turns out Michael was having a huge celebrity party for someone or other. The pizzas were for the crew setting up the party. They were very thankful and tipped me $100. I just wanted to tell that story. It was pretty awesome. Story 30. I delivered for a while in college. There were 2 we don't deliver their neighborhoods. The manager actually allowed it to be driver's choice, but pretty much everyone said no. I actually had a friend who grew up in one of these neighborhoods, and I knew it wasn't just a drug-dealing, murdering psychopaths running rampant, so I said yes. I delivered to these neighborhoods. One time I was delivering to an apartment that was part of a triplex or quadplex, and some kid outside, probably like 5 or 6 years old, stuck his finger at me and said, "This is a robbery, give me your money." I just chuckled and kept walking. While I was giving the person their pizza, I heard from behind me, "The hell do you think you're doing, boy? Don't you know he's the only one who'll deliver here?" Then, as I was walking back to my car, he was standing on the sidewalk, Dad several feet behind him, and he said, "I'm sorry." Hey, have respect for the delivery drivers. I respect it. If people are helping you out, there's no reason to be mean to them. Or mug them, I guess. Which is being mean to them, but extreme. Story 31. I used to deliver to this one house and they would always ask to deliver to the back door under the porch. Every time it would always be a different person who seemed high on something. Anyway, apparently they saw one of the delivery drivers going through their cars and stealing something on their cameras. They suspected it was me. The next time I delivered there, I went to the front door and this guy with 2 huge angry Rottweilers on leashes opened the door. I immediately ratted out my coworker and explained it wasn't me. The guy felt bad and invited me in, gave me a fat tip, and I left. It must have been a drug den or something because there was a big flat screen TV which had live stream footage of security cameras around their house. So yeah, my boss stopped taking orders from them after that. Story 32. Been a delivery driver for 8 years. Only place I worked at with a blacklist was in Davenport, IA. Our store was in a really rough area. The kind of neighborhoods with glass between you and your gas station clerk. Also had 50-cent cans of Old Milwaukee's Best and PBR right next to the register. Anyway, my first day, one of the drivers got maced and pistol whipped for $32. We eventually found out the person who set it up was the assistant manager because she didn't like him. The store was robbed so frequently, it refused to accept carry-out orders after sundown. Yet they had no problem sending us drivers into the middle of the ghetto with food and cash. In-shop employees weren't allowed outside after sundown, so trash was never taken out until the next day, and employees took their smoke breaks in the back corner of the pizza store. The places on the list were listed because drivers had been robbed there. No matter how rough the area was, we would still deliver until someone got robbed. Then we would blacklist everywhere within 3 to 4 blocks. Story 33. My colleague at the time got an order from a house we'd not delivered to before in a very affluent part of the city. 4 pizzas, couple of salads, and a fair bit of soda. Enough to feed about 10 hungry people. He goes to the address, knocks on the door, and a gorgeous 20-year-old in some lingerie answers. Turns out the house was being used as a brothel. He was invited in, put the pizzas in their kitchen, got paid, and started to leave. As he was about to exit, 3 of the girls stopped him and, I kid you not, "What about your tip?" When he got back to the shop, 30 minutes later, he was a complete hot mess and reeked of cheap perfume. An hour later, we got a call from the madam. Our pizza shop was banned from delivering to their premises. Story 34. A friend of my ex's had to deliver in a particularly rough area of Cleveland. He had to carry pepper spray because he'd been attacked by dogs so many times. He'd have someone open the door holding a still smoking crack pipe. People try to pay for their food by trading probably stolen shoes or electronics or even drugs. He once paid for a pizza himself and took the offer for a bag of weed, full disclosure. The best was his time his car was hit by a repo truck. The repo guys were speeding out of the driveway with a person's car on the back, slide-back truck. The former owner was chasing the truck with a baseball bat, banging on the sides of the truck. The truck sped out of the driveway and clipped the front passenger side of his car. They settled that one out of court. Wasn't a big deal other than the crazy factor. In short, they had a multiple-page list of no delivery houses. A really good delivery story of his was when his place got a call in the morning for a night delivery. Several thousands of dollars worth of food to be delivered to a particular floor at the Cleveland clinic. Who orders this much food? A benevolent member of some Saudi royal family who was at the CC for treatment, who decided to order pizza for his entire floor of the building. Patients, nurses, doctors, everyone. Man, bad day to be allergic to pizza on that floor though. Ugh. As someone who can't really eat takeout pizza ever, I would just have to sit there smelling it and just watch everyone eat it. And at that point, I'm already in the clinic, so I'm just losing twice here. In other words, I would be ungrateful, I think is what I'm saying. Story 35. I worked at a place when I was a kid, and there was this lady who ordered some pizzas from us one night. Routine stuff. I get there and I'm at a rundown trailer in the middle of a notoriously sketchy trailer park being answered at the door by about 6 kids all chanting, "Pizza! Pizza!" The lady hands me a check that is covered in whiteout, and I'm looking at the check like, lady, you have to be kidding me. But in that moment, with all those hungry kids in a rundown trailer, I took the check and went back to the store. I took the hit for accepting a bad check, and the lady got blacklisted, but hey, at least those kids got a pizza party. Story 37. Worked at a franchise, Papa John's. We had plenty of areas that were blacklisted, especially after dark. One neighborhood, even cops wouldn't go in alone. New guy took an order for one of those places one night, and I ended up being the driver. Realized about halfway out that it was in the aforementioned neighborhood. I had multiple deliveries at the same time, so I wasn't paying close attention till I actually had to go there. Called the guy to explain he was out of our delivery area. He argued for a bit and then told me to go have relations con mi madre. I thanked him for reinforcing our reasons for not delivering to him, and I don't know if he heard that bit. Story 38. I delivered pizza for Pizza Hut for almost a year, and most houses were fine. Some didn't tip, and some did. Some were rude, some weren't. However, there was always one place I loathed delivering food to. I get an order to take a couple of pizzas and whatnot to this address I'd never delivered to a couple months in. I drive there, but can't find the street sign, and the phone's GPS, it's only so much help in the rural areas, is telling me to take a turn into a forested area with no discernible roadway. I'm driving around for 15 to 20 minutes trying to find the right road to turn down and repeatedly calling this customer. I finally stop where it's telling me to turn and get out and walk to the side of the road with a flashlight and see the narrowest dirt road winding into some trees. I assume this is it and pull in. After a minute or so of slowly driving with the high beams on, I pull up to 2 identical trailers in the middle of the woods, one on the right and one on the left. There are no numbers, and this guy is still not picking up. There are no lights on in either house, and eventually I decide I'm not ready to die, actually, and decide to take the pizza back and say they never answered. I lean into my car to grab my phone to call HQ, and when I stand back up, this dude is standing on the other side of my car, staring at me. He didn't make a single sound walking up to my car. He looks like Vince Neil if he were a vampire. Dirty, long nails, heavy-set mouth breather. Just plops wrinkled cash onto the roof of my car, walks around and gently takes the pizza from my hands and walks off into the darkness. He didn't even head to one of the houses. $5 tip though. Story 39. Delivered pizza when I was 19, and we had an exceptionally large delivery area. We had, however, an entire section of our city blacked out on our delivery map with a black marker. If someone called from that area, our computer would give us an alert stating we cannot deliver there. Upon asking, it was because we had many delivery drivers robbed/attacked in that area over the years. Understandable, as I knew that section of town was rather unpleasant. It is worth noting that that area of town is also heavily populated by Black Americans. You'll see why this is pointed out in a moment. We had a new manager that day who we shall refer to as Jerk. He gave beer to underage drivers and staff, huffed in the office, just general D-bag. While I was cutting up some pizza to deliver later, Jerk takes an order. This is what I hear from his side of the conversation. "Welcome to pizza. What do you want? Address? We don't deliver to that area. It's a black area." Me. Bewildered stare. The woman on the other end of the phone was screaming so loud at him that he held the phone away from his ear. And hey, I learned a few new word combinations that day. He hung up on the woman and thought that was the end of it. Nope, woman came in later, and indeed she was African American, toting her child with her. From the looks of it, the boy was about 5. She was screaming before she even fully entered the shop about racism, and how she should have a free pizza for the harassment. I ducked out to deliver pizza, leaving Jerk entirely alone in the shop to deal with her. By the time I came back, woman was gone, and there was a sticky note on the giant delivery map on our wall above the blacked out area saying, "From here on out, the blackout zone shall be referred to as the no delivery zone." That was probably the only proper act of management I'd ever seen from him. He was fired soon after people saw him hand myself and another underage driver beer. We didn't drink them. Story 40. I used to work at a sub-delivery shop. There was one guy who would always order inane things like a bag of ice, a jar of mayo, etc., as well as food. But he tipped pretty well, so the owner put up with him. He had a habit of coming to the door in nothing but underpants and socks, asking delivery drivers, men, to come swim in his penthouse with him, and inviting them in for drinks. So the last time he ordered, he faked a heart attack to try to get me into his condo to take care of him. The owner put him on the no-delivery list as far as I know. Story 41. When I delivered pizza long ago, we banned one house because after receiving their order, they called back and complained about the pizza. They were told not to eat anymore. We would deliver a new one and pick up the old one. When I got back the original pizza, I could instantly tell they were scamming. They had replaced the original pizza with one from a store. I could tell because, for one, it wasn't even fully cooked. The toppings were not cut anything like the ones we used. Unfortunately, I was forced to take it back. The manager immediately put them on the ban list. Story 42. Former Jimmy John's sub-delivery driver here. One night, one of our drivers came back from an apartment saying the guy was wearing only a winter hat and boots. No underwear, nothing. The driver was known for telling crazy stories, most not believable. A few weeks later, the naked guy orders again. The driver from the last time recognized the address and said he wasn't going back. My manager asked me to take the food, and if he wasn't wearing clothes, to tell him he either needs to wear clothes in order for us to continue to deliver or call elsewhere for food. I got there, and the front door has a window in it. He's wearing a t-shirt and nothing else. So, pointing my face to the walkway, I knock on the door. The guy looks out the window, sees me, a woman, and starts frantically searching for something to cover himself up with. He settles on his hands. Once he opened the door, I handed him the pen and receipt and repeated what my manager had told me. Once he handed me the receipt, I walked away. He never ordered again. How hard is it to just, not show people who don't want to see your bits? I don't get it. Not only is it just illegal, it's just so strange. I don't yuck people's yums, but the second that your preferences start affecting other people negatively, that's an issue, buddy. Story 43. About 3 months into my first stint as a driver for a national pizza chain, I started to notice a pattern of regular customers who did not tip. We're not talking tiny tips or being picky that I wasn't getting what I thought I deserved as a driver. I'm talking flat out exact change, no tip. I even got berated once for not having change to give the customer his 32 cents back. Seriously? Anyway, I was one of 2 full-time drivers. We split shifts on all 7 days. There were also 2 or 3 other part-timers that helped on weekends or picked up midweek shifts when needed. On a particularly slow midweek shift, we started talking about the whole exact change, no tip thing. We compared stories and even addresses. We realized that this was a habitual issue, not something unique to my own experience. Around this time, we were upgrading, imagine I'm rolling my eyes, to a new management system and dispatch system. While setting things up, we noticed we could customize the order-taking screen. There was one line item for delivery notes that was public. In other words, it would show up on the printed receipt, and another one that was private. You could see it in the GUI, but that line would not print out in an order receipt. Realizing this, we both exchanged knowing looks and began referring to delivery note number 2 as the blacklist line. Once the new system went live, we started keeping track of things like which customers were great tippers and super nice, high priority, and which customers were jerks, impolite/rude, and or were exact change/no tip types, low priority. After about 3 months, we had a pretty smooth system going. If a blacklisted customer ordered, I would refuse to take it and leave it for one of the drivers with less seniority. If they got a good tip, they would make a note on line 2. I guess I should explain that it wasn't like once a customer was blacklisted that was it. It wasn't a one and done thing. We kept updating the entries, both good and bad, on a regular basis. Anyway, there was one particular customer I and the rest of the drivers had finally gotten to the point of refusing to deliver to, under any circumstances. I deleted their address from the system and made a note that said they were habitually rude, did not tip, were sometimes not even home when they ordered delivery, and often complained for no reason whatsoever so they could get free pizza, like saying the cheese was stuck to the top of the box when I checked before getting out of the car, or the pizza was late and cold. Stupid petty things that were pretty much BS attempts at free pizza. The manager was already tired of this customer's crap, but still had to abide by the whole "customer is always right" garbage. So one night, jerk customer calls in and the poor girl taking orders didn't know what hit her. She says that we as a store are unable to deliver to them. It wasn't uncommon for people outside of our delivery zone to try and call in an order on a busy night, so we noted those customers in the system too. Well, jerk customer goes off on her. She starts crying and hands the phone to the manager. He gets the customer's story and then tells the customer he will call them right back. I come in from an order and get cornered by the manager. I could tell he was mad, but he gave me a chance to explain the situation. A few months later, the other full-timer comes in and confirms the story as well as why we made the decision to not deliver to jerk customer anymore. Manager calls jerk customer and flat out tells him, "It is how it is." A heated pseudo-argument ensues, and the manager ends by saying, "Our delivery service is just that, a service. It is customary to tip delivery drivers because they're using their own vehicles and paying for the gas out of their own pockets. If you don't want to tip a delivery driver, don't order delivery. Thank you, and goodbye." He then slams down the receiver. He looks at me and just mutters, "What a jerk," under his breath. From then on, the blacklist became an accepted thing, and during an all-store staff meeting the following week, the system was explained so everyone else who worked there understood what delivery line number 2 meant. A few months later, I ended up leaving the store on good terms and went to school out of town. After finishing school and moving back home, I decided to pick up delivering again part-time while I continued on in grad school, this time in town. A total of 4 years had passed between my first stint as a driver back in '99 to my second stint, '03. On my first day back as a driver, I noticed the blacklist was still going strong. Needless to say, I was pleased. Okay, this isn't super relevant to the story, but the way OP said "on good terms" as if they were breaking up with an ex or something, that's not how I imagine people talking about leaving their job as a pizza delivery driver, but sure, man. Story 44. Only story I have is as follows. First delivery of the day, maybe 11:15 a.m., a guy calls and orders a sub, small pizza, and 20 wings, but says he wants the sub delivered to his house and the pizza and wings delivered to another house. Claims that he would do it, but he's disabled. I go to his house and drop off the sub. On my way to the second location, I guess he called the pizzeria and there was some confusion. And the sub and wings were supposed to be dropped off at his place, not just the sub. The pizzeria calls me and informs me of this, so I tell them I'm almost at the second location and I would go back after I drop the pizza off. I get to the second location and a man answers the door. He seems very confused, so I tell him it's from a gentleman on Lake Street. He then asks some questions and informs me that his daughter has a restraining order against this guy, and that he's mentally unstable and dangerous. I get back in my car to go and drop off the wings, and as I pull into the driveway, the man is standing outside of his house with his sub in hand. I take the wings out of the bag, and once he realizes that I didn't take them to the second location, there was some confusion, and apparently I was supposed to take them, he lost his mind. I mean, he went insane. He threw the sub at me, got in my face telling me that I screwed up everything with the girl I love, and threatened to stab me and pushing me around. After a while, I was able to get in my car and speed off, but it was scary as hell. Guy sure was unstable. He's banned now. Story 45. When I worked there, we only had one. It was this real pain-in-the-butt family who lived in a really obscure, hard-to-find house. They ordered once a month and usually got a different driver who couldn't find their stupid house. They wouldn't answer the phone when we tried to call for directions and would eventually call up demanding the pizza be free and they would pick it up themselves. One day they did this when the regional manager was visiting. She spoke to them and said she would deliver the pizza herself and chat to them about the issue. They gave her directions. She delivered the pizza, told them they were banned from the store and to never order from there again because no one would deliver to them. Story 46. weeks. One thing I learned very quickly while delivering is that middle school girls are freaking terrible people. I went on a $40 delivery once. Not only did they pay entirely in quarters as a cruel joke, they shorted me $5. To add insult to injury, drivers were responsible for laying out their own cash to pay for deliveries, so I ended up losing money. When the address came up a few weeks later, I made sure my boss told them to not pull that crap again. They tried, but I counted every single quarter. When I saw they were short again, I walked away. Pizza in hand. We don't deliver there anymore. Paying for something in all quarters is how you treat someone who you don't like. Like someone who has done something wrong to you or something like that. Not just a poor delivery driver trying to do their dang best. That being said, middle school girls, they're young, stupid, like, come on, every kid is, right? So hopefully they grow out of it. Fingers crossed. Story 47. I love my pizza guys. I couldn't imagine where the motivation to be a jerk to people who cook your food comes from. Due to our rapport with our regular spot, we get free pizza, sauce, cola, etc. Probably saved way more over the years than a few successful scams would have gotten us. Even had one of the guys who went out on his own to start a new store come by our house with a sample of each thing on his new menu totally free. That guy is a saint. Upsides are endless. First and foremost, a lack of bodily fluids in my food. Secondly, the combined satisfaction of pizza and not being a jerk. Story 48. How about being blacklisted from delivery and in-person pickups? Years ago, I worked in a popular deep dish pizza place, midtown east of Manhattan, affluent area. There was a 50-cent surcharge for takeout and delivery because the pizza came in aluminum tins for the deep dish. Every time a delivery was made, the wife of this famous writer would call and claim she was getting ripped off. Then, she would stiff the poor delivery guy. They were blacklisted from delivery. So, they started coming in, making a major pain in the butt of themselves, complaining about everything, generally just causing a riot every time they came in. And they would stiff the waitstaff. It was to the point where the waitstaff would fight over who would serve them. The owners were hot-headed Argentines who did everything to make them happy, but enough was enough. They told them they were banned and they could go screw themselves for all they cared. The writer, his name rhymes with Connegut. Total D-bags, him and his wife. Story 49. Used to deliver for a sandwich place. Woman would order a foot-long cheese and mayo sandwich twice a week, every week. It was 12-inch white sub bread, 8 pieces of cheese, and, not exaggerating, half to 3/4 of one of these squeeze bottles full of mayo nuked for 45 seconds. If the cheese to mayo ratio was off, we'd get a belligerent call demanding a refund. Eventually, the owner got tired of her crap and put her on the do not deliver list. This was after a driver was threatened for screwing up the last one while delivering another the next day. Guy calls from apartment address that was banned. I answer and tell him, sorry sir, can't deliver to that address. He tells me he just moved in and didn't care what the previous tenant did. I said, I'm sorry sir, I just can't. The guy proceeds to tell me I was going to deliver or he would show up at the restaurant and beat you like a freaking dog. Cops were called, dude never showed. Definitely kept that address on the ban list though, even if he was actually a new tenant. Damn, dude heard that he was blacklisted and said, I'll give him a reason to blacklist me, and then did. Wild behavior, man. Story 50. Once I went on a pizza delivery around Halloween time, I believe. I was walking up the stairs to a second-floor residence, and a few teens came out the door and hurried past me down the stairs. I continued up to the door and completed the pizza deal. As I walked out to the street, I glanced back and saw them watching me out the window of the apartment. Strange, I thought, but whatever. Then I saw it. They had rushed out to vandalize my car while I was doing the pizza deal. There was shaving cream and TP all over it. Well, only problem was, it wasn't my car. I rolled up in a black car and parked behind another black car. They must have been high and forgot which one they were supposed to mess with. I glanced back up at them and they were all laughing, but then I got in the clean car and drove off. Story 51. I smoke a lot of weed, order a lot of pizza, and tip really well. I was once too stoned to order and told my buddy to order. I always ordered online, but for some weird reason, my buddy actually pulled out his phone out of his pocket and called the local pizza place. Places the order, gives his credit card number, hands up, and tells me it's a 90 to 120 minute wait. I call them right back and ask why it would take so long. They said because they're backed up, but they asked what name the order was under so they could give a better estimate. Because I'm stoned, I gave them my name instead of my buddy's. They immediately recognized my name because I'm a good tipping regular. They said, there's no order for me. I then realize it's not under my name and tell them that. They respond saying, crap, I knew that address. It'll be there in 30 minutes. Thank you. I now know I'm on the deliver to this guy no matter what list. The opposite of the question, but semi-relevant. Story 52. I worked at a small chain in high school. The owner, 21-year-old college dropout of the franchise, was the nephew of the franchise creator. We had a family that would come in once or twice a week for takeout, and they were usually not well kept and sometimes smelled bad. The owner one day decided to tell them that they won some promotion, 1000th customer or something like that, don't remember. It was 89, and gave them free pizza and a bar of soap that was wrapped in a hard stock coupon. The family graciously accepted the pizza and soap, but never came back to the restaurant. At the time, I was 17, I thought it was funny, but looking back, I am a little ashamed that I was laughing about it. Yeah, it's rough because we don't know if their hygiene was bad or if their circumstances were. If you know it's bad hygiene, it's a lot easier to laugh at the whole giving them a bar of soap thing. Like, come on, just wash yourselves, people. But maybe they didn't have access to a bath or something, and that makes it a little more awkward. Story 53. About a month after I was robbed at gunpoint in store, I deliver to a quiet suburb. I knock on the door, and after about 2 seconds, the door flies open, and I have a hooded man with a black pistol pointed in my face. I ran from him and was already behind my car when he yelled, "It's just a prank, bro!" It was some 16 or 18-year-old kid with an airsoft gun. He told me he was expecting a friend that he planned on scaring. When I was done shaking, I picked up the pizza from his porch and threw at him and got sauce all over him and his mom's nice white rug. Police were involved and the address got blacklisted. Story 54. I used to work for a catering company that delivered to corporate meetings. We had a gold star list and a blacklist. Gold star members would get their food delivered even if they called during the lunch rush expecting food in 15 minutes. Oh, blacklist though? Good luck getting us to pick up the phone. Moral of the story, tip your mother freaking delivery man. We'll go out of our way to make your life easier. I don't know how many jobs I saved by promising food for a meeting that a secretary forgot about until 30 minutes beforehand just because she tipped well and smiled. Story 55. I delivered for a family-owned pizza place back in the 90s. We were in an upper-middle-class neighborhood, so the tips were usually quite nice. One night, I deliver to one of the regulars, and he gives me a check for the exact amount. I turn around, accepting that there's not going to be a tip, when he yells out, "Hey, come back! I forgot your tip!" I walk back to the porch, and when I get there, he says, "Look both ways before crossing the street," and then slams the door in my face. I can accept getting no tip, it happens. But to me, being a jerk about it is unacceptable, especially doing it with a stupid dad joke. Remember that part about the restaurant being family-owned? My uncle was the owner. Needless to say, Jerk had to pick up his orders after that. Story 56. Not a pizza delivery guy, but I lived in a rough neighborhood. Ton of ran-down vacant houses, druggies and such. A micro-Detroit, if you want to call it that. It was magically never on any do-not-deliver lists. One day I was helping my disabled father get groceries out of the car, and we saw a person walking like he was drunk and wearing a local pizza shop uniform. He makes it to us and collapses. That's when we realized he had a gaping hole in the back of his head and was bleeding bad. Turned out he got sent to a vacant house down the street and was robbed and beat. He had only $10 on him in ones, and it was the first delivery of the day. We called the ambulance and tried to keep him awake and talking. He died before the ambulance and police made it. Even after that, the pizza shop still sent people into our area. If there is precedent for someone dying because they delivered to a neighborhood, I can't think of a better reason to put a neighborhood on the no-deliver list. Like, that sucks for everyone who's innocent there, but it's really not worth risking someone's life ever. And also, absolutely screw the people who did this. Just garbage humans. Story 57. I worked at a local pizza parlor. We had this lady that would place an order for delivery and after receiving her pizza complained that the pizza wasn't what she ordered. After a few times of people just going through the motions of the customer is always right and giving her a free pizza, the owner of the parlor got wise to it. He took her order specifically. He had all but put out an APB on when she calls, so we gave him the phone when she called in. Wrote down her order perfectly, had her repeat it twice, brought the ticket to her house with the pizza she ordered, and when she gave him crap about the pizza being wrong, he demonstrated how freaking stupid she was, and to never call back again. The owner was from New York, so he wasn't polite about it. She called in later that night to complain about how the delivery person was rude, and that she would be speaking to HR and the owner. He said, "Yeah, I am HR and the owner. Screw you," and then hung up. Never called back again. Story 58. I managed a nationwide pizza place store through college. We did have blacklisted addresses, mostly because of bad checks, high crime, whatnot. That's all been covered here already. The most curious one was not because the residents did anything wrong, but because the drivers just flat out refused to go to this house after a while. It started one night when we made a delivery there and the dude had a heart attack while paying for the pizza. Just dropped dead right there in the doorway. Looked healthy, not obese or otherwise. This was before cell phones were ubiquitous, so the driver had to go into his house to call 911. The family of the guy sued the driver because things had gone missing. The case was thrown out, but still it left an impression on the store. The next resident of the house calls up one day and pays for his $25 worth of pizza with a $100 bill, but the driver got rear-ended on the way back to the shop. Keep in mind, less than 100 yards away, so the house has a bit of reputation by this point. The next time somebody took a pizza there, the driver joked that he had a cell phone and because it was close, decided that he would walk to the house to make the delivery. Yeah, safe, right? On the way back, a car runs up on the sidewalk and runs him down, shattering his leg and generally ruining his day. For as long as I had that store, I couldn't get anyone to make a delivery there after that. Story 59. Not a delivery story, but in the same vein. The pizza place I worked at in high school had this one customer we originally called Light Sauce Lady because she wanted only the faintest hint of sauce on her pizza. Not no sauce, but the bare minimum. Without fail, the first pizza we gave her was never right. We would actually have the veteran managers make her food every time to try and avoid this, but she would want it remade every time. Eventually, the store manager said that when she ordered, we would give her a decoy pizza first, since we knew it would be rejected no matter what. We only use about a quarter of the full amount of cheese on that one, since cheese is by far the most expensive element of your pizza, and it was going to be thrown out anyway. One day, our district manager, who was all about customer service, was in the store, and the cook called out for a decoy pizza. The DM asked what that meant, and the store manager told him everything, thinking she was going to be in trouble. The DM gave her a raise, saying he was happy that we kept a difficult customer and kept costs down. Story 61. We banned one guy from our eat-in restaurant. I worked at a gourmet pizza place when I was in university and we did deliveries, pickups, and eat-ins. This guy was in his 30s probably, served him a few times, but had heard some whacked out stories of him coming to the restaurant drunk and or high. So this story happened to an old coworker there. She is from Ireland and came to Canada to work for a bit and have some fun. She served this guy and as soon as she started helping him, he starts wailing on her about being Irish and, as an immigrant, stealing our jobs, how he wipes his butt with Celtic folklore/books. He went on, and my manager was working that night luckily and told him to apologize or be banned. The guy refused, so he was banned. Saw him around the plaza that we were located in, but never came back. Okay, of all the fights to pick, an Irish person? Really? Like, of all the weird xenophobic takes you could have, the Irish? I mean, sure, man. Whatever. Story 62. We have this lady that has always been an issue. My pizza wasn't as dark as it could have been. I didn't get the right sauce. I didn't get the right order. I didn't get the right drink. I want a free pizza next time I come in. It's mostly trivial, but when we get there, most of the time, everything is exactly the way it should be. Sometimes we screw up and send orders to the wrong houses, but that's on busy nights. She always called in on weekdays. That's always what she starts with. She was so irate one day that I had to run her 2 sides of freaking ranch. Yeah, she didn't have her side. And our store policy is that if we forget it, we'll run it right back with a free drink on us. We don't mind. It's a way to keep the customer happy. Well, she wanted a free drink and a free pizza, which we didn't want to give her because she's had enough free crap from us, but somehow we talked her down to a bread. Keep in mind, I make the food, I don't deliver, so to take me away from my job to cater to you means either we're busy or you made the driver mad. Anyway, food comes out, I leave. As I leave, she calls to tell us that she's mad it took so long and to forget it. I didn't know this, and she lived not a half mile down the road. So I get to her house and what do I get? An earful of bullcrap. Are you a freaking slur? I canceled this 2 minutes ago. Ugh, you idiots can't do anything right, can you? She then proceeded to make noises mocking mentally handicapped people to taunt me before ripping the bread out of my hand and trying to throw it at me. I ducked, it went splat against her windshield and screwed up her car. I went back, told my boss what happened, and he got livid. I mean, pissed. He called her and ripped her a new one like nothing I've ever seen. When he was done, he said, "These guys are gonna make sure you never get served here again. Never talk to my employees like that." Slammed the phone down, put the ban hammer on her in the system, gave me the drink that she was supposed to have for my troubles, and gave me the night off. Always nice to hear a manager or something standing up for an employee. I feel like it doesn't happen enough. This woman sounds like the quintessential awful customer. Her being banned is going to keep everyone happier, I guarantee it. Anyway, that is the last story for today. If you have any stories of this of your own, throw them in the comments. I'm sure there's at least a few of you. For now, though, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.